Good evening. We will call together this meeting of the Board of Adjustment on Thursday, June 16th, 2022. The time is 6:29 for a 6:30 start time. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chair Lavere.
Present.
Vice Chair Wolven.
Present.
Board Member Barrere.
Present.
Board Member Goodread.
Present.
Board Member Holland.
Present.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item number 3 on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the agenda? Any changes, notes? Seeing none, we will move. Or is approved, yeah. Item number 4 on our agenda is the minutes to be approved from the prior meeting, certification of the April 21, 2022 transitional and regular meeting minutes. Any comment, any changes for the meeting minutes? We will take a motion to approve.
I move to approve the minutes for the April 21st, 2022 transformational and regular meeting of the Littleton Board of Adjustment.
I will second. System or? Yep. We will go. All right, voting is open. Or? Okay. Given the issues we're having, we will go thumbs up, thumbs down. If you are in favor of approving the minutes, thumbs up.
5 in favor, the motion carries unanimously.
All right. Thank you. Okay, item number 5 is public comment. If you wish to address the board under public comment, please sign in on the public speaker sign-in sheet before the call to order of this meeting. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. The board is not authorized by the Colorado Open Meetings Law to discuss, comment, or take action at this meeting on any issue raised by public comment that is not part of tonight's agenda. The chair may refer the matter to staff to obtain additional information and report back as appropriate. And tonight we have public comment sign-ups for 2 individuals. First up, Pam Chadbourne.
Good evening, Board of Adjustment. I seem to talk at a lot of meetings, and I'm not going to let you guys off. So my name is Pam Chadbourne. I live a block and a half from here in the downtown area. And I'm going to talk about the Unified Land Use Code, which was passed last October. But I think I also last addressed this board about the changes to the board and commission responsibilities, which was passed by council this year, I think. And I said that you would see changes in what came to you, and that I'm not sure that that's best for Littleton. And I was hoping you would pay attention to that, think about it. Is that change that council made the best thing for Littleton? It's not about you. It's about the city. These kind of decisions affect the city for decades. And we all, as people who live here and care about the city, and you are volunteers, you are giving your time to be here, we're entitled, and in fact we're obliged as Americans to think about what the change did and is it good for our city. That's our right as Americans. Now, I don't think that change in scope of responsibility was given very much explanation to the public. I think most of us don't know what it did. But it, in my opinion, and I'm not a land use lawyer, I wish that staff had provided that interpretation for us, but they didn't. I think that the combination of the ULUC plus the change in board and commission responsibilities means that the public gets less awareness and less input to changes that affect the city and our neighborhood and even what's next to us. In fact, I think at Planning Commission on Monday, there was a conversation about, well, we'll notice people within 700 feet, but only people within 300 feet get to appeal. That's outrageous. That's not Littleton. That's not what our old code used to do. We used to have public hearings for rezonings. We have a totally untested new code. It was made up by whim and desire of Planning Commission and City Council without any analysis of the impacts of those changes for the past couple of years. And I can say this because I sat through hours and hours and hours of those meetings. It's untested code. We don't know what it's going to do. It calls for more public scrutiny, not less. So thank you for hearing me out about that concern. I think it should be more of ours. At least let's find out about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Pam. The second person signed up for public comment, Candace Schaffen.
Some of you probably know me, but my name's Candace Chafin, and I live at 5519 South Curtis Street. On either side of my lot that I have lived in since 1985, I have destruction going on to my property. Well, destruction that's gone on that has not been repaired, and potential destruction of even 3 times more on the north side. Do you understand what's going on in those 2 areas? No? Okay. For the last 2 years, there's been work on 9 townhomes. 9 townhomes on 2 lots right next door to me. I used to have a 180 view. I live at 5519. It's right off Santa Fe. It's gone on the south side. Now, I understand that there is going to be a 3-unit condo on the right side of me. Now, when they put in the condos on the north side, on the south side, they dug a hole right up to my fence. Right up to my fence, the property line. The whole fence fell in. I have no fence anymore. This was thousands of dollars that it cost me, and it doesn't even exist anymore. There are a few pieces, and what else is left is wrecked. Now, on the other side of my yard, and I've lived there since 1985, okay? This is my home. I've put so much work into it. Now, they're building that there. I know they're going to do the same thing. They're going to dig a hole. And on the right side, right up to the property line, on the property line is my driveway, a brick wall that drops down to a patio that has a full fence along the side of the patio and then goes across the garden, which I have a stone wall there, and then my garden with garden boxes. If all that will be undermined with a ditch dug right next to it. It's going to destroy thousands of dollars more of my property. I was promised that on the south side, the fence would be fixed. It still is not fixed. 7 months I've waited. I have a contract that's signed by Brad Broyhill, and no one has fixed it yet. The potential for even more damage on my property and the probability that it won't be fixed either is very great for me. So I'm very upset about what's going on either side of me and the destruction of my property and my home. That's all I have to say. Well, actually, I would like to know who's responsible for this? Who's going to take care of it? Who's going to repair? Well, I was promised that the fence would be repaired. That hasn't been done. Or, well, rebuilt, I should say. And the same thing will happen on the north side, but even to more degree. Any comments? No.
You're actually not allowed to comment on anything.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Well, that's my situation.
Candace, thank you for coming and speaking tonight. That is all that had registered to sign up for public comments. On to number 7 on our agenda, the public hearing. This evening, we have a public hearing.
I actually grabbed that list before everyone came in, so you may want to check
All
if
right.
there's anyone else.
Was there anyone else that did not have a chance to sign up for public comment that would like to sign up and speak? All right, seeing none. Item number 7 is our public hearing for the evening. 7A and 7B will be heard together as one presentation, one public comment, and we will have 2 different resolutions to vote upon. Item 7A, BOA Resolution 01-2022, approving variance request related to the build to zone 5509 South Curtis Street. And 7B, BOA Resolution 02-2022, BOA Resolution 02-2022, approving a variance request for proposed accessory dwelling unit building placement at 5509 South Curtis Street. At this time, we'll start with a presentation from the city.
Good evening, Chair Livier and members of the Board of Adjustment. My name is Mike Sutherland. I'm the Deputy Director of Community Development. And for your consideration this evening, as Chair Livier mentioned, there are 2 variances. One is to allow a proposed principal building outside of the required build-to zone for the property. The second is to allow a proposed accessory dwelling unit to be placed in front of the proposed principal building. To orient you to the property, this is 5509 South Curtis. Ms. Chafin's property is located just to the south of this. She spoke just a moment ago. This is approximately a 5,225 square foot property. It's located at the intersection of Berry and Curtis and is zoned downtown neighborhood residential. There's an existing 1-story home that was built in the 1930s that is on the property. The property is owned by the Belzers who wish to redevelop it. So here's where things get a little bit more interesting, and I hope this is visible to the public and to the commissioners. There is a sewer line, a sewer main that runs through the property under a portion of the house that's existing there. And the sewer main obviously runs through several properties in this neighborhood, and there are several homes and other structures that are located on top of the sewer main. It's a public sewer main. Normally, we would not allow development on top of sewer mains today, but this was developed a long time ago, and so there's no real easement that's shown on the property. It's a prescriptive easement, but as properties have redeveloped in the area, we have requested a 20-foot sewer easement be placed over this sewer line. Sometime in the future, it may need repair or replacement, so having structures on top of the sewer lines is an impediment to the safety and welfare of the citizens, basically. But that is the source of some of the issues that arise from this property. In other notes, the property falls fairly significantly from the east to the west. Skunk Hollow is located just to the north of this property, and Santa Fe is just to the west. And there's approximately 15 feet of fall from the top part of the property on the east side to where it ends at the west on Santa Fe. The applicant has come up with a plan to develop the property, and their goal is to have a duplex on the property along with an accessory dwelling unit. In order to accomplish their plan, they would need approval of two variances from the board. The first is to section 10-2-3.2K, which requires that a duplex building be placed 20 to 30 feet from the front property line. Because of the sewer main, the applicant needs to place a duplex building approximately 50 to 60 feet from the front property line. The second request is as a variance to section 10-1-1.7, which requires that a detached accessory dwelling unit be located behind the principal or primary structure. The applicant would like to place an accessory dwelling unit in front of the duplex, which is the larger, more predominant primary structure, giving them 3 dwelling units on the property. The first request, in staff's opinion, meets all of the review criteria for a variance request. The existence of the sewer main is clearly a hardship specific to this site that prevents reasonable development of the property considering the placement requirements of the city code. The second request, staff has not been fully convinced that the second request meets the criteria for variances. Whereas denial of the first request nearly prohibits reasonable development of the property and effectively denies use of the property, the second request does not, in staff's opinion, adversely affect reasonable development of the property. The accessory dwelling unit is not a guaranteed type of development for every lot in downtown nor in the city of Littleton. Staff does not believe there is an adequate hardship to grant the second variance that is based on deprivation of use. But the location of the sewer main and the steep slopes on the rear of the property are physical impediments to make an accessory dwelling unit nearly impossible to the rear of the duplex. Staff believes that any hardship related to needing a third dwelling unit on the property is created by the applicant's expectations of yields for units on the property, not necessarily the use of the property as a duplex or a single-family home. With the allowance of a duplex on the property, the second request is not the minimum variance necessary, in staff's opinion, and may confer a special privilege not allowed to other residential property owners in the downtown neighborhood residential zone district. For example, we would not typically allow an accessory building in front of any primary building for any other property owner in that district. A site plan could reasonably assure that okay, so I know there's an X in front of public health, safety, and welfare on this chart, but I think with a permit and a site plan, we could ensure that if the board were to grant that request, there would not be any adverse effect for public safety, health, and welfare. So staff did break up the resolutions into 2 pieces. The first resolution we recommend approval of. The second resolution we recommend denial of. And there are proposed motions in your packet for many different alternatives. You could approve or deny either of the requests, or approve with conditions either of those requests. Or if there's more information needed, you can continue this to a date certain. That concludes staff presentation. The applicant, I know, is here to make a brief presentation.
Thank you. Hello, please state your name.
My name is Ryan Holtman with Design Studio Architects. You want my address too?
No? Good. I don't think that's necessary.
Thank you, Michael. I know we've had a couple of meetings on this project, actually, to kind of work through some of the issues, particularly with the sewer line and the developability of this lot. This lot in particular, the sewer line is the most forward on the lot. As it starts to continue south on Curtis, there's more room on other lots in order to get in front of this sewer line, as you guys have seen on some of the developments that are just south of this property, that was spoken about tonight as well. The intent for the ADU on the front of this property is actually to maintain the build-to and the character and the vision for Littleton, as well as the scale that's already existing on this street, as opposed to having a big gap, right, that's kind of stepped back to these two townhome units. So the intent for that ADU, not necessarily monetarily, as Michael has spoken about, but we feel very sensitive about design, as we've worked a lot in the city of Littleton, and we do want to maintain that character along that street, and we feel that this is the best way to do that. And in that, that's what the proposal is, and that's why we request your approval of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We are moving to public comment. With the applicant? Yep. We can have you come forward.
Good evening. My name's Tom Belzer. I own the property at 5509 Curtis. The downtown charm of Littleton is special, and I think the ADU up front, we can design it to look just almost like the house that's there, just moving it. And certainly with the house existing over the sewer line, that's not possible. But again, for the look and the feel of downtown Littleton and the help of design architects, I think that that's achievable.
Okay.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll hear from public. We'll open the public hearing at 6:51. The public hearing roster's been collected. We have several signed up. We'll just work through them. And Tom Belzer, I see you as the top one here. Did you have anything else to say? All right. We'll go to Lynn Wassinger. Sure, okay. And Ryan Hoffman. There we go. Candace Chafin, would you have a comment at this time for the public hearing?
This is my son,
Sure. Just state your name for the
Yeah,
record.
Clint Chafin.
Sorry,
Clint Chafin.
Clint Chafin, thank you.
So I'd say I grew up in that house. And so one of the issues with the property to the south side is as you push that property back significantly, the house has bay windows that open up into an unobstructed view of the mountains, right? So this variance request is to push a duplex back from what's supposed to be only 10 to 20 feet from the property line. You're going to obstruct the view then on the north side as well. So it's going to have this, but whereas you used to have this, if that makes sense.
Yep. That makes sense. Thank you. I'm struggling with this next one. Looks like maybe AA. So active. 6320 South Curtis Way. Or in Centennial. Anyone here from Centennial? Okay. We will move to John Marchette. For public comment, did you signed up for the public hearing roster? Did you have something to say? Just the attendees, okay. And now we're down to Pam Chadbourne.
My name is Pam Chapper, and I actually live a block from this site. The city of Littleton was designed because of gravity with the sewer line that drains the south end of Main Street going under Curtis Street. And then it extends to Crestline, and then you know what, it goes under my property and joins with one of the larger collection lines, which then drains further with gravity to the south. So there are many of us who have this sewer line under our property, and I think that the city staff needs to have solved that in design and not leave it up to individual parcels, because how can we as a city understand the impact on our neighborhood, our community? After all, the whole Kennedy Keys thing was supposed to be community character, without understanding the impact of that sewer. And, you know, I know Charlie Blaston used to bring this up all the time. Every, you know, as mentioned, it was gathered, the rights were gathered whenever there was development. So this really should be solved as a whole in a design way for the city, not parcel by parcel, and not even variance by variance. And again, here's the failure of the change in authority that the city made. This should be city planning, this should be, planning commission and city council with public hearings so that the public knows and can weigh in. I don't think this should fall on you. This is not a piece by piece design. This is a much bigger issue that affects many of us. And we deserve a chance to solve it as a community and think about the neighborhood strengthening and all of the interesting and good outcomes from that, instead of breaking this down and saying you should decide on the basis of this. Anyway, I'm convinced that the folks who are doing this mean well, but I'm going to say an ADU right up to the street actually doesn't meet the character of downtown. Ken and Keys talked about borrowed open space, and that's where there actually is more open space to look around. And downtown Littleton used to have that in spades, and the new UC is destroying it infill by infill. There is no preservation of character here. It's a betrayal of what we were told and envisioned, and this is an example of it. And so I really appreciate the staff recommending against approving the ADU. I think it violates the intention of envision. It violates the comprehensive plan. And obviously, it violates the code. It shouldn't be here. It should be rezoning, and it shouldn't be here in the first place. And so I hope you do deny that. The intense buildings on the south, or on the west, I'm not sure what to say, but I don't agree that they block reasonable development. I don't think that's a reasonable development. Again, for the reasons I've talked about, which are much bigger community and neighborhood impacts, I don't think it's a reasonable development. I think we all knew about those sewers when we bought the property. It was our job to have due diligence. We knew about that. So did they. So I'm not sure this should be approved, either one of them. Thanks.
Thank you. And last on the list for public roster is Rich Batten.
No comment. I just reserve the right if I wanted to comment.
Well, thank you for your preemptive thinking. That brings us to the end of the public roster. Is there anyone else that did not have an opportunity to speak who would like an opportunity to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 6:58 p.m. At this time, Ashley, just a procedural question. I know in licensing authority we've had discussion or motions to begin. Is there any in this?
The first thing I know, since this one went a little differently with addressing both variances with one presentation and one public comment, obviously the board is also able to ask the staff or applicant questions if you have them, or if anything came up even during public comment. If you don't, then you would take these one at a time and you would do, you can do discussion if you find that necessary on either one of these first and then a motion, or if someone is prepared to make a motion first on 7A and then you want to do discussion on all of the criteria, because again, there's criteria that have to be found on each one of these. And so you should have discussion as a board on that criteria.
Okay, thank you. Discussion for members, motions, questions for staff.
I have a question regarding the second one. Do you want me to pose that now?
Yes, please.
Wait, okay. Yeah, so for staff, have there been in the past variance requests for accessory dwelling units that have been approved or denied by staff or the board? I mean, have there been a lot of those? Is this a common area to have a variance request? Can you provide some background on that?
Certainly. So this is a fairly new area of requests. We recently approved accessory dwelling units with the Unified Land Use Code just last year. So we have not had any, that's not true. A few years ago, the Board of Adjustment did approve an accessory dwelling unit downtown. That was on, I believe it was Nevada Street. I don't think that unit was ever built, but they approved a variance to allow a second unit on a single lot. And that was for an accessory dwelling unit at the time. That preceded the ULUC. But since the ULUC was adopted, we haven't had any similar variance requests. And the new design standards are a little bit different too. So in the old code, we didn't have a build to zone. So that part of the request would not necessarily have been a variance. You could set a building back as far as you wanted on a property under the old code.
Have a loud voice. Follow up on that question, and it may be in this, but I wasn't able to find it. What exactly would the accessory dwelling unit be? Would it, I know it's a duplex, what would this unit be? A single family or?
It could be, and the applicant may want to address this as well, but it would be a single-family home that could be any number of bedrooms. I believe the maximum height requirement on it is 1.5 stories.
Okay,
So it's not a large home.
okay, so you would have potentially a duplex and a single-family home on this lot. Is that?
You have to go up to the microphone.
There's a proposed layout in here that the architect did.
I think I've got it on the screen if you want to show it on the screen. Is this the one
Yeah, I was
you're
just gonna
talking
show
about?
this.
If we can get that back up on the screen, yes, perfect. We can see the blue square there at the front of the property. It is still set back the minimum distance, correct, the 20 feet?
Okay,
Yeah, so the ADU is 20 feet back like the new code asks for.
uh-huh.
And then it would be a single-family home, small,
And then the duplex
would be to
would
the
obviously
west.
be. Okay, okay, thank you.
And for city, do we have the age of this sewer? This says sanitary sewer. Is this is, but stormwater or,
Sanitary sewer.
so everything?
Yeah. The age of that sewer, I don't know the exact age of that sewer, but it's been there a long time, probably before these houses were built.
And do we know depth on this sewer?
Yes, our Public Works Department does know the depth of the sewer, and I'm afraid I do not. But
Does the applicant know if you want to come up here and?
I don't know the depth in feet, but if you if you walk down the street on those other new developments that have actually taken place, and you stand up on the retaining wall that is above, I believe it's your property over there just to the north, you can see it, it's got to at least be like 8 to 10 feet down just from that property, and the whole site's climbing, so it's pretty deep in there.
And this is the sewer that the new structure would connect to for service?
All the structures along that street connect to it.
Right.
I have a question. In terms of the properties that are on the opposite side, or on the same street, have they all been approved to move their buildings back farther on the lot like this request is? Is this in line with the other ones?
So the sewer crosses each property a little bit differently. As the applicant noted, this is one of the properties where the sewer is nearer to the front. There have been developments on Curtis Street where the sewer line is nearer to the back of the property. So, yeah, we haven't necessarily granted variances for each case. Some variances were not necessary. If the property redevelops, we would like to preserve some sort of easement over the sewer. But we have not done any proactive work in the area to existing homes on the sewer that were built and permitted there are just fine. But could eventually, if the sewer needs to be replaced, we're going to have to do some work to figure out how to do that in some of these different areas.
I have another question. Are there any codes that address what your building size can be compared to that lot size?
Yes, there are. There are coverage requirements, and the applicant would need to meet building coverage requirements for the site. However, the site is large enough, and from what we've seen of the buildings that are shown, that is not a predominant concern.
Okay.
If this is built and there's a problem with the sewer, the city would go in, it's the city's responsibility to repair this sewer if there's a problem?
That's correct.
And they are proposing a solid concrete driveway on top of the sewer. Just trying to make sure I understand the scope of the problem or what this will look like. Would the city, has the city ever considered moving this sewer as a solution rather than, not to this problem per se, but has there ever been a plan developed for the city to redesign this sewer section? If it was needed to either repair or to replace?
So as Ms. Chadbourne pointed out, this has been a known quantity for a very long time. I can't speak for the entire history of the city's what the city's plans have been regarding the sewer, all the way back from time immemorial. But as of recently, we do not have a plan to either relocate the sewer or replace the sewer.
Yeah. Are there any other questions from members? I mean, from a strictly speaking redevelopment, if we went with same house replacement on the same lot, they would still require this variance to push it back because we don't want that on top of this sewer.
Oh, so if the house were to become damaged or destroyed by, fire or flood or something like that, we do have a provision of the city code for legal non-conforming uses or structures or lots to be rebuilt as they are, assuming, I believe, and I'd have to look it up, I believe it was not more than 50% of the value of the structure remained, I think. But yeah, if it were completely destroyed, it would have to be rebuilt in a new location.
Yes, and knowing that sometimes buildings become obsolete just based on age and value. To get fair use of this land, this sewer is a very precarious, not great location for this lot, and it's quite a hardship, it seems.
Staff certainly agrees with that contention.
I don't have any other questions. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve BOA Resolution 01-2022, approving the variance request to allow a proposed principal building to be placed outside the required build-to zone on property located at 5509 South Curtis Street.
I'm sorry. We have a motion by Member Goodread and a second by Member Holland. Thank you. Sorry, still learning names, still a new board. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. I will attempt to see if we have no names, but that's okay. Is that correct? We'll give this a go. I've opened the polling. We can now vote. I believe we're being manipulated on the
Okay.
back end.
We're going with thumbs up and thumbs down. Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no.
All right, remember, this is the first resolution on the setback for not placing any unit on top of the sewer. Those members in favor?
The vote is 5 in favor. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. That is one of our two resolutions. For the second resolution here today, it's the question on the accessory dwelling unit. Were there any other questions? Does anyone have a motion that they'd like to make on this accessory dwelling unit variance request?
I motion to deny the second request, the BOA Resolution 02-2022. I move that the request for variance to allow a proposed detached accessory dwelling to be placed in front of the proposed principal building on the property to be denied on the basis of the following. Strict compliance with the provisions of the city code would not impose an undue hardship on the applicant and would not deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other residents of the district in which the property is located.
That's the motion. Is there a second?
Just to clarify on this initial motion, looking at the criteria in the code, I just want to understand from Vice Chair, you are just asking that it be denied because the very first criteria was not met.
I just don't think that it, I don't see that the reason to approve for the dwelling an ADU.
Understood, and you don't have to give me a reasoning, I just want to make sure, because there is a bunch of different criteria, so I'm asking if you're just moving because you just believe criteria number 1 was not met, or if there were any others.
No, I think there's others too.
And I guess at this point, if there was not a second, that motion can die if there needs to be a new one. I know this is complicated, so I just wanted to clarify with you. It's fine if it's just one you're not finding, but just for the record, I wanted to make that clear. So are you fine with that?
Are you withdrawing your motion?
I guess because there's no second, it
That-
just dies right there.
Yeah, I think there's maybe some other criteria we can throw into a motion to cover our bases, and I'll give it a shot. I move that the request for variance to allow a proposed detached accessory dwelling unit to be placed in front of the proposed principal building on property located at 5509 South Kerr Street be denied based on the following findings of fact. Strict compliance with the provisions of city code would not impose an undue hardship on the applicant and would not deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by the other residents in the district in which the property is located. And the hardship is not based on or resulting from the particular physical surroundings, shape, or topographical conditions of the subject property. The variance requested is not the minimum necessary that would make it possible a permitted use of the land, building, and structures. And a variance would confer on the applicant a special privilege that is denied to other lands or structures on the same district. And for those reasons. Is there a second?
And I'll second that.
We have a motion by myself and a second by member Holland. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I'd like to have some discussion on that, because I think that the review criteria are met by the variance request. I think that criterion number 1 regarding the strict compliance, that strict compliance with this code would impose a hardship on the applicant. I think that they're not in control of that new easement regarding the sewer line, and they're doing what they can to comply with that. So I think that not allowing the accessory dwelling unit would impose an undue hardship on them. I think that criterion number 2, which is part of your motion, that it is a result of the physical characteristics of that lot. For criterion number 4, I think that it is the minimum amount that would be required, and I know in staff's report, they point out that the use of the accessory dwelling unit is not the primary use of the lot, but I feel like the decision criterion says a permitted use of the lot. It's not referring to the primary use of the land. So I think that criterion number 4 is also met by the variance request. And I also think the criterion number 5 is met by the variance request, because unless we're saying that we're never going to approve any other variances for an accessory dwelling, we're not conferring anything special to this applicant. That's my comment.
Other comments?
I would agree with what she said. I don't think that there's enough evidence to say that the items that you pointed out are true enough for us to vote against it.
Other comments?
just also like to say that the accessory dwelling thing is a new thing, so I think we can expect to see a lot more of that. I don't know if staff agrees, but I think we'll see a lot more of this come in different forms and different shapes and sizes, so that's one of the things that the ULUC was developed to do, is to allow some extra dwellings to be made to help make accommodations for, you know, different types of diverse housing options in Littleton.
And if I can, Chair, just to clarify, because it is a new concept, they're not in front of you because they want to build an ADU, period. That's allowed under our code. It's just normally allowed behind the principal unit. And so what the variance is here is allowing it in front of. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yep. Are we ready to vote?
We'll just do the thumbs up, thumbs down.
Because this one is so convoluted, I'm so sorry, either clerk or chair, will you reread your motion so it's clear what we're voting on? Thank you very much. I
Yes.
told you this was gonna be a wordy one, so I appreciate it.
Yes. The motion I made is as follows. I move that the request for variance to allow a proposed detached accessory dwelling unit to be placed in front of the proposed principal building on property located at 5509 South Curtis Street be denied based on the following findings of fact. Strict compliance with the provisions of the city code would not impose an undue hardship on the applicant and would not deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other residents of the district in which the property is located. And the hardship is not based on or resulting from the particular physical surroundings, shape, or topographical conditions of the subject property. And the variance request is not the minimum necessary that will make possible a permitted use of the land, building, or structure. And a variance will confer on the applicant a special privilege that is denied to other lands or structures in the same district. That's the motion. Would you like to call, or would you like to do thumbs up, down?
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Okay. When you're ready to vote, thumbs up for approve, thumbs down for deny. Oh,
Five in.
sorry.
Okay, so we're
Approve the motion, deny,
approve the motion that you just made.
correct. I'm voting against my motion.
You're voting against your.
Okay.
So,
So we're back to square one.
so deny, deny, deny,
2 in favor of the motion, 3 opposed.
3-2. The motion,
And I do apologize for making that confusing.
the motion carries. I mean, the motion fails.
The motion fails.
Yes.
The reason I voted against my motion is because I was swayed by some of the inclusions that I made. And I still do have a problem that this ADU is being proposed in front of the primary residence. I am partially swayed by the applicant's notion that this would restore some character to the street front, and seeing that it does fall back from the street, the required minimum distance of 20 feet. That does sway me a little bit. However, it is an accessory dwelling unit. And I don't know if I can get there. I am swayed by comments that my motion was overly broad in maybe discounting the hardship placed by the physical surroundings and shape of the property. So I would strike that on a future motion. If someone else has a motion they would like to make, please speak up. We can try a different motion.
All right, I'll try one. I move to approve BOA Resolution 02-2022, approving the variance request to allow a proposed detached accessory dwelling unit to be placed in front of the proposed principal building on property located at 5509 South Curtis Street.
I second that motion.
Thumbs up to approve, thumbs down to deny.
Yeah. Just before we vote, staff gave us a review criteria. They believe there isn't a undue hardship. They believe the hardship might have possibly been created by applicant owner by their design of this structure. I'm not convinced that it's created by themselves. I think they're doing, with the initial request, minimum necessary to set back. I just get stuck on the special privilege of this accessory dwelling unit for this duplex being out front, but I am partially swayed by that. Restoration of character to the street front. Okay.
It seems to me that the ADUs are, not every property is set up that it's a good setup for an ADU. And I think since this property, so not everyone that applies for one is going to get it, because it is a new code. We don't know how many there'll be, but it's not like the standard that every homeowner, every property owner can put an ADU on their property. That's just not part of this new code. So I think that this property just isn't set up well to have it. It is intended for the ADU to be in the back. I don't see a good reason to be putting it up in the front. So that's why I don't think it's a good fit for the area, and it's not a good reason to approve it.
Well, I think the reason it can't be in the back is because of the physical limitations set up on the property.
All right. We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. If we're ready to vote, we will vote. Put your fist out there. And then to approve the motion, thumbs up. To deny the motion, thumbs down.
And it is a motion to approve the variance.
Correct. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
The motion is 2 in favor, 3 opposed, with Levere, Wolven, and Holland voting no. The motion dies. The motion fails.
Okay. I've organized my thoughts, and I'll make a motion I move that the request for variance to allow proposed detached accessory dwelling unit to be placed in front of the proposed principal building on property located at 5509 South Curtis Street be denied based on the following findings of fact. A variance, due to the following findings of fact, that the variance will confer on the applicant a special privilege that is denied to other lands or structures in the same district. That is my motion. If there is a second.
Can you say that again?
I limited my motion this time only to the finding of fact that a variance will confer the applicant a special privilege that is denied to other lands or structures in the same district.
I second that.
Can I ask a quick question before we vote?
Yep, absolutely.
So if there's a vote against accessory dwelling, what goes in that space, or is it just empty space, empty part of the lot? Just as we think about character and things that, what we want to see along the sidewalk as we walked by, what would go in that space if there's not an accessory dwelling?
So as the motion sits right now, if you approve this denial, that would mean they are not allowed to build what they're proposing right now. They could come back and have a different proposal, they could leave it empty, but the specific finding and what you're voting on right now is yes, it would be empty unless they came up with something else.
Was there a second?
There is a second
Okay, thank you.
by Vice Chair Wolven. All right, we ready to vote?
A thumbs up is to approve this motion that denies the variance based on the finding that it would infer special privileges. ...
Thank you.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
3 in favor to deny, 2 opposed, with Goodread and Barrere voting no. The motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes our item number 7, public hearings for the evening. Item number 8 on our agenda, comments, reports. Anything from community director?
No reports from city staff, thank you.
From attorneys, board?
Nothing for the city attorney, thank you.
Nothing for me as well. At this time, the meeting is adjourned at 7:31 PM.